The scream of twisting metal still echoed in his ears when Adrian Hale realized something far worse awaited him at home. Minutes earlier, he had watched a delivery truck skid across the rain-slick intersection and crash into a streetlight. He jumped out of his car, rushing through shards of glass to help the dazed driver. And yet, as the ambulance lights faded behind him, a single notification glowed on his phone. A message that would hit harder than any collision. Your wife isn't going where she told you. Check her suitcase. No name, no number, just that. Adrian stood frozen beside his car, rain soaking through his shirt. He reread the message 3 times, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something less poisonous. They didn't. He drove home on autopilot, headlights carving through the storm. His wife, Alara, had left an hour earlier, supposedly for a weekend conference with her colleague, Mara. Perfectly normal, perfectly reasonable. And yet the message gnawed at him bite by bite. When he reached the house, it was silent. Too silent. A single suitcase still sat in their bedroom, Alara's smaller travel case. She had taken the big one. Strange. She never left the smaller one behind unless she'd been in a rush. Adrian unzipped it. Inside lay the things she rarely brought on work trips. A lace slip, scented body oil, a silk blindfold tucked carefully between folded clothes. All new. His chest tightened. Alara didn't buy this kind of lingerie for comfort. And certainly not for a conference with Mara. The anonymous message pulsed in his mind. Check her suitcase. He sank onto the edge of the bed, rain dripping from his hair onto the carpet, the world shifting under him like uneven ground. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't innocent. Someone wanted him to know, which meant someone else knew even more. He zipped the case shut, hands trembling. If Alara wasn't with Mara, then who was she with? And why would she lie so precisely, so calmly, so easily? Adrian stood up. He needed answers. He needed the truth, no matter how ugly it turned out to be. The scream of twisting metal still echoed in his ears when Adrian Hale realized something far worse awaited him at home. Minutes earlier, he had watched a delivery truck skid across the rain-slick intersection and crash into a streetlight. He jumped out of his car, rushing through shards of glass to help the dazed driver. And yet, as the ambulance lights faded behind him, a single notification glowed on his phone. A message that would hit harder than any collision. Your wife isn't going where she told you. Check her suitcase. No name, no number, just that. Adrian stood frozen beside his car, rain soaking through his shirt. He reread the message 3 times, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something less poisonous. They didn't. He drove home on autopilot, headlights carving through the storm. His wife, Alara, had left an hour earlier, supposedly for a weekend conference with her colleague, Mara. Perfectly normal, perfectly reasonable. And yet the message gnawed at him bite by bite. When he reached the house, it was silent. Too silent. A single suitcase still sat in their bedroom, Alara's smaller travel case. She had taken the big one. Strange. She never left the smaller one behind unless she'd been in a rush. Adrian unzipped it. Inside lay the things she rarely brought on work trips. A lace slip, scented body oil, a silk blindfold tucked carefully between folded clothes. All new. His chest tightened. Alara didn't buy this kind of lingerie for comfort. And certainly not for a conference with Mara. The anonymous message pulsed in his mind. Check her suitcase. He sank onto the edge of the bed, rain dripping from his hair onto the carpet, the world shifting under him like uneven ground. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't innocent. Someone wanted him to know, which meant someone else knew even more. He zipped the case shut, hands trembling. If Alara wasn't with Mara, then who was she with? And why would she lie so precisely, so calmly, so easily? Adrian stood up. He needed answers. He needed the truth, no matter how ugly it turned out to be. Shall I continue with part 2? Vous skazali. Da. ChatGPT skazal. Part 2. Adrian didn't wait for morning. He grabbed the keys to Alara's old sedan, the one she never used anymore, and opened the glove compartment. She always kept her travel folders there. boarding passes, hotel confirmations, neat little stacks of printed itineraries. Alara loved organization. She trusted paper more than apps. Except this time, the compartment was empty. Every document, every receipt, every trace of her trip, gone. Cold, deliberate absence. Adrian swallowed hard. Someone hadn't just lied. Someone had prepared for the lie. He moved through the dark house, flicking lights on as he went. The kitchen counter still held 2 mugs from breakfast. Their laughter from this morning felt like something belonging to strangers. He replayed her smile in his mind. Calm, warm, practiced. He'd never questioned it. But now he wondered how many truths she'd wrapped behind that soft composure. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. If you want proof, go to the Halden Ridge parking overlook. West side. Don't come alone. A chill slid through Adrian's spine. Halden Ridge was an isolated viewpoint at the edge of town. A place teenagers used for bonfires and couples used for privacy. He had been there once, years ago. At night, it was pitch black. A trap? Probably. But so was his marriage, apparently. He slipped on a jacket, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the rain. When he reached Halden Ridge, the storm had thinned into a mist that clung to the ground like smoke. Only one other car was parked there, engine off, windows fogged. Alara's car. Adrian's heartbeat hammered in his throat. He approached slowly, his flashlight beam trembling across the windshield. The passenger seat held a tote bag, her tote bag. Inside, he could make out a folded sweater, a water bottle, a notebook. Ordinary things. Normal things. Too normal for the panic now twisting in his gut. He raised the flashlight toward the back seat. That's when he saw it. A man's jacket. And 2 empty coffee cups. Still warm. Someone had been here a few minutes ago. Someone who wasn't Mara. Someone close enough to Alara to sit beside her in the dark. Sharing coffee. Sharing silence. Adrian stepped back, breath unsteady. Another message vibrated in his hand. You're close. Don't stop now. The wind shifted, carrying faint voices from deeper within the overlook, the path leading down to the trees. Alara's voice. And a man's. Adrian tightened his grip on the flashlight. He wasn't just close. He was seconds away from seeing the truth itself. Adrian moved toward the tree line, each step sinking into the wet earth. The voices drifted through the fog, soft at first, then sharpening into tones he knew too well. Alara wasn't arguing. She wasn't distressed. She was laughing. That light, breathy laugh she used only when she felt completely safe. He stopped behind a thick cedar trunk, breath held, and listened. I told you he wouldn't question it, Alara said quietly. He never does. A man chuckled. Alara, you underestimate how smart people get when they're cornered. I'm not worried, she replied. By the time he realizes anything, we'll be gone. Gone. The word tore through Adrian like a blade. He stepped out from behind the trees, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark. 2 silhouettes snapped toward him, Alara, wrapped in her gray travel coat, and a man he recognized slowly, painfully. Jonas Keene, his co-worker, his friend, the man who had helped Adrian move furniture, who had gone fishing with him in the summers, who had toasted to Adrian and Alara at their wedding 8 years ago. Jonas stood between Adrian and Alara instinctively, as if shielding her. Adrian's voice came out rough. Tell me the truth. Right now. Alara didn't flinch. She didn't gasp or deny or cry. She simply exhaled. Adrian, I didn't want you finding out like this. Then how? He shot back. In a year? After you disappeared? Or after you drained our accounts first? Jonas raised his hands. Don't do this. No one wants a fight. No one wants a fight? Adrian barked. Then what are you doing up here? What is this? A meeting spot? A getaway plan? Alara stepped forward, pulling her coat tighter. I was going to tell you after the conference. Jonas and I. Don't say it, Adrian warned. Don't make it real. But she did. We're leaving. Together. Rain dripped from branches overhead, tapping rhythmically onto the ground like distant applause. Adrian felt something inside him collapse. quiet but devastating. "Why?" he whispered. Alara hesitated, then spoke with an unsettling calm. "Because Jonas sees me, the way you used to, the way you stopped seeing me years ago." Jonas put a hand on her arm as if claiming ownership. Adrian stared at them, seeing for the first time, not lovers caught in a moment, but a plan long in the making. The hidden lingerie, the missing documents, the secret messages someone had sent him. Someone who wanted him here. Someone who needed him to know everything before they vanished. Adrian looked at the two of them, betrayal burning through the fog. "You think you're the only ones who see the whole picture," he said quietly. "But somebody else knows. Somebody who warned me, and they're not done." Jonas frowned. "What are you talking about?" Adrian lifted his phone, still glowing with the last message. "I didn't get here on a hunch," Adrian said. "I got here because someone wanted you exposed." Alara's expression finally cracked, and Jonas suddenly scanned the dark woods around them. For the first time that night, fear entered their eyes. Not his. A branch snapped somewhere beyond the overlook. Not close, but close enough to twist the airtight between them. Jonas stepped slightly in front of Alara again, his posture no longer confident. Alert, bracing for something he couldn't name. Adrian's flashlight swept across the trees, but the fog made everything look alive, shifting, breathing. "Who sent you that message?" Alara demanded, her voice sharper now. "Who else knows?" Adrian didn't answer, because he didn't know, and because watching fear bloom across her face felt like the first honest moment of the night. Jonas lowered his voice. "We should go. Now." "To where?" Adrian asked. "Your secret hotel? Your new life?" Jonas didn't rise to the bait. He just took Alara's wrist. "Come on." But they didn't get the chance to move. Another message buzzed on Adrian's phone. So sudden it made all three of them flinch. He looked down. One sentence. "They're lying to each other too." Jonas swore under his breath. "This is someone messing with us." Adrian felt something cold settle inside him. Realization spreading like frost across glass. "You deleted the itinerary," Adrian said, staring at Alara. "You cleared out every document, every trace. Why? Why hide the trip at all if you plan to tell me later?" Alara's jaw tightened. "And you," Adrian turned to Jonas. "You told Alara you'd handle everything." "I heard you." "Handle what?" Alara's eyes flicked toward Jonas. She hadn't heard that part. Adrian had. The silence between the lovers thickened into suspicion. Jonas finally spoke. "Don't twist this. Alara and I had a plan. That's all." "Plan." The word didn't sound reassuring anymore. Alara stepped back from him slightly. "What did you mean by everything?" Jonas hesitated, and in that sliver of hesitation, something shattered between them. Adrian saw it. Alara saw it. And Jonas knew they did. He ran a hand through his wet hair. "You said you wanted a clean break. You said you didn't want Adrian dragging this out." Alara's voice dropped to a dangerous softness. "A clean break. Not whatever you did with the documents." Jonas's eyes hardened, the softness he'd shown earlier evaporating. "I did what was necessary." Adrian felt the ground tilt under him. Necessary for what? Jonas didn't answer, because someone else answered for him. A new message lit up Adrian's screen. "Check her bag again. Bottom pocket." Alara inhaled sharply. "Adrian, don't." But he was already moving. He strode to her tote bag in the back seat of her car, unzipped the bottom pocket, and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Creased, damp at the edges. A printed bank transfer authorization, with Alara's signature, and Adrian's forged one beneath it. Jonas swore. This wasn't how. Adrian held the paper up between them like a verdict. "You were going to drain our savings, then disappear." Alara stared at the document as if seeing it for the first time. "Jonas, you forged it?" "I did it for us," he snapped. "I wasn't going to let you back out." Adrian watched Alara's face collapse into horror, real horror. Not at being caught, but at realizing Jonas hadn't told her everything. The fog thickened around them, turning the overlook into a shrinking island. Alara stepped away from Jonas first. Just a few inches, but enough. Jonas noticed. His expression darkened. Adrian realized suddenly, sharply, they weren't just dealing with betrayal anymore. They were dealing with a man whose plan was falling apart in real time. And whoever had been messaging Adrian, they weren't done intervening. Something moved again in the woods. Closer this time. Jonas turned toward the sound. Alara froze. Adrian lifted the flashlight. Whoever was out there had finally decided to make themselves known. A figure stepped out of the tree line, slowly, deliberately, outlined by the thin veil of fog. Not a stranger. Not an attacker. Mara, Alara's co-worker. The woman Alara claimed to be traveling with. The woman who, until tonight, had never been more than a polite acquaintance to Adrian. But here she was, standing at Halden Ridge at midnight, drenched from the rain, holding a second phone in her hand. The anonymous phone. Alara's breath hitched. Mara, what are you doing here? Mara didn't answer Alara. She didn't even look at her. Her eyes were locked on Jonas, sharp, furious, and tired in a way that suggested this moment had been building far longer than any of them realized. I told you, Mara said quietly to Jonas. I told you it would come out eventually. Jonas stiffened. Mara, don't. Adrian's pulse hammered. You're the one who messaged me. Mara nodded once, subtly. You deserved to know the truth. All of it. Alara shook her head, trying to piece the world back together. Mara, I don't understand. Why would you? Because, Mara said, finally looking at Alara. You weren't supposed to be part of his plan. Jonas snapped. Stop it. But Mara didn't. She stepped closer, rain streaming down her hair, her voice steadier than any of theirs. He told you two were running away together. He told you he'd arranged everything. He made it sound romantic, brave, like a fresh start. Alara's face paled. Mara kept going. But he didn't tell you he'd already tried this once, with someone else. Jonas lunged forward, but Adrian cut him off, blocking his path. Jonas glared, but it was too late. Mara had already said enough to turn the ground beneath them into a sinkhole. Adrian frowned. What, someone else? Mara's gaze flicked toward Jonas, not with fear, but with bitter disappointment. A woman from our office. Last year. He convinced her he'd leave with her. Told her he just needed time to untangle his life. Meanwhile, he was studying her finances, her passwords, trying to figure out how to drain her accounts before vanishing. Alara staggered back. Jonas? Is that true? Jonas didn't respond, which was response enough. And when she backed out, Mara continued. He needed a new target, someone more trusting, someone who believed in love stories. Alara's voice cracked. Me. Jonas's jaw clenched. You don't know everything, Mara. No, she said sharply. But Adrian needed to know enough. Adrian felt something surge inside him. Anger? Yes, but also a strange relief. For the first time tonight, the chaos had a shape. A cruel, twisted shape, but one he could finally see clearly. Alara covered her mouth with trembling fingers. I thought we were leaving because we were in love. Jonas turned to her, desperate now. Alara, you don't understand. I do love you. I just... What? Mara snapped. You just planned to take her money and disappear with it? Use her the same way you used the last woman? Jonas's face hardened into something cold, closed off, calculating. I did what I had to, he said. And none of you were supposed to be here. A silence followed, thick, dangerous. Adrian saw Jonas shift his weight, eyes cutting toward the trees, toward the darkness beyond the overlook. He wasn't planning to talk his way out of this. He was planning to run. Or worse. Mara noticed it too. Adrian, she warned. Jonas moved, fast, toward the path, toward the shadows, toward whatever escape he'd planned for himself. But Adrian was faster than he expected. He lunged, grabbing Jonas by the arm. Jonas twisted, trying to break free, but Adrian slammed him back against the hood of Alara's car. The metal groaned under the impact. For a moment they struggled. Rain, mud, breathless fury. Jonas reached into his jacket. Adrian froze, anticipating steel, a blade, a weapon. But Jonas didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out Alara's passport, her credit cards, her bank access token, and a bus ticket one way, leaving the state at sunrise. Adrian stared at them. Alara stared too. Everything Jonas needed to vanish. With her identity and her money, she whispered, broken, "You were never coming with me." Jonas didn't deny it. He tore free of Adrian's grip, stumbling backward, panting, soaked to the bone. And for the first time all night, Jonas looked scared. Really scared. Mara raised her voice over the wind. "You're not getting away this time." Jonas's eyes darted between the three of them. The betrayed husband, the woman he manipulated, and the coworker who finally exposed him. Then, like an animal trapped, he turned and sprinted into the trees. He vanished into the fog before any of them could react. The forest swallowed him whole, leaving the three of them standing in the rain, breathing hard, shaken, and suddenly aware. This wasn't over. Not even close. For a long moment, no one moved. The forest was silent again, as if it had swallowed not only Jonas, but every lie, every whispered promise, every carefully planted illusion. Alara sank onto the damp ground, hugging her elbows as if trying to hold herself together. Adrian wasn't sure if she was crying or simply shaking from the shock. Mara approached her slowly, cautiously. "Alara, I'm sorry. I should have told you earlier. I didn't know how." Alara lifted her head, eyes hollow. "You knew. All this time you knew what he was, and you let me fall for him." Mara flinched. "I tried to warn you without destroying you. I thought you'd see the signs. I didn't think he'd take it this far again." Again. The word held weight Adrian didn't dare unpack. He crouched beside Alara, keeping a respectful distance. "You didn't deserve this. Not any of it." She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time that night. "Why didn't you yell at me?" she whispered. "Why aren't you furious?" "I am," he said. "But not at you. You were fooled by someone who spent months studying your weaknesses. You trusted the wrong person. It happens. It happened to all of us." Alara's voice trembled. "Adrian, I didn't want to leave because I hated you. I left because I thought I wasn't enough anymore." Adrian closed his eyes briefly. The confession hurt more than any betrayal. "You were always enough," he said. "You just stopped believing it." Rain began falling again, soft, steady, washing the mud and tears from their faces. Mara cleared her throat, turning serious. "Jonas won't get far. I already sent the evidence to the police, emails, documents, financial reports. They've been watching him since the last incident. Tonight, this was the proof they needed." Adrian stared at her. "You planned this." "Not the chaos," she replied. "But the truth?" "Yes." "Jonas wasn't going to stop targeting people. I needed him caught, and I needed Alara safe." Alara wiped her face with trembling fingers. "I feel like my whole mind is coming apart." "It will pass," Mara said softly. "You survived him. That's what matters." In the distance, faint sirens began to rise, growing louder, closer, cutting through the fog like approaching justice. Mara straightened. "They're coming. We should go down to the road." Alara hesitated. "Adrian, will you walk with me?" He nodded. They made their way down the winding dirt path, the storm slowly breaking overhead. At the bottom of the hill, patrol cars pulled into the clearing, officers stepping out, flashlights raised. One of them approached. "Sir, ma'am, we received a report. A suspect fled into the woods. We need statements." Adrian nodded. "We'll tell you everything." Alara squeezed his arm, lightly, uncertainly. "Adrian, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't know what happens next. But thank you for not leaving me alone out here." He studied her. This woman he'd once trusted with every piece of his life, now cracked open and fragile under the weight of a deception she didn't fully understand. "Tonight isn't about forgiveness," he said quietly. It's about survival. She nodded, tears slipping down again. As the officers moved toward the forest, as lights flashed red and blue across the wet pavement, as the fog finally began to lift, Adrian felt something he didn't expect. Calm. Not peace. Not closure. But a beginning. A fragile, uncertain one, but a beginning nonetheless. He looked at Alara and spoke the first honest truth of the night. When this is over, he said, we'll decide what our lives look like, separate or together. But for now, we face the fallout. And we face it as humans, not enemies. Alara nodded, relief and heartbreak mingling in her eyes. Behind them, the forest rustled, officers shouting commands as they moved deeper in pursuit of Jonas. Ahead of them, the road curved toward town, toward consequences, explanations, and the slow rebuilding of everything shattered. Adrian stepped forward. Alara followed. Together, they walked out of the fog,